We're on our multi-boot system now. We're going to go into XP Professional. And again, we don't want to go to Ubuntu, but we'll take a look at Vista and XP. And what we want to do is look at some of the recovery options. Now, we'll try to start out with the, I guess the least drastic, and then proceed to the more powerful options. So one of the first things, let's go into XP Service Pack 2. And one of the first things you might do is hit F8 in the boot process. There's a couple of really good options here. Safe mode would basically take you into a restricted driver mode. So you'd boot up, your graphics drivers wouldn't be very sophisticated, but a lot of services would be disabled or not loaded. A lot of startup programs would not be loaded in safe mode. And this can help you, if your system becomes unbootable because you installed an application or a bad device driver or something, you can go into safe mode and you'll be able to boot, and then you can run regedit and edit the registry, you can uninstall things, repair your file system. There's safe mode with networking support, and it does just what it says, safe mode with command prompt. Let's go to this one. This is a nice option that can sometimes rapidly fix a machine that won't boot. Say you installed something and it modified your registry, device drivers or some other type of application. Last known good configuration simply would restore the registry settings to what it was the last time the system successfully booted. A little backup copy of the registry is kept, and selecting last known good configuration a lot of times could fix that. If you just did one thing, installing something, and all of a sudden your machine won't complete booting, go back, reboot, hit F8, select last known good configuration, and sometimes, presto, that can fix the problem. Now, Directory Services Restore Mode doesn't apply to XP Professional, but this does apply to 2003 Server or 2008. If I had a domain controller, then what happens is, in the replication cycle, remember that we talked about replication before, and everything gets a timestamp affixed to it and a serial number. The problem is, if I'm restoring the domain controller from backup, that serial number is going to be much less than the current serial numbers on the domain controllers that have been running since that backup was made. So I have to do what's called an authoritative restore to take old information on a backup and force it out, replicate it out in Active Directory to restore something that got deleted. If I didn't do an authoritative restore, every time I did that, the new information, which is that item was deleted, would just be replicated over it. So Directory Services Restore Mode is very useful. It allows us to, basically boot up a domain controller so that it's not going to replicate, and then we can perform different types of restore operations and use different tools and utilities. So really more for the server operating system, not for the client operating system that we're looking at. Debugging mode is very interesting. If I hit debugging mode, then what it will do is it'll give me a service-by-service description as it boots. It'll tell me what it's loading, device drivers, applications, things like that, and then I can see exactly where it hangs. I've used this option a lot, and then I can either tell what's wrong, or if I can't tell what's wrong, I can at least see where it's hanging, what service it's loading, and I'll go to my good friend Google and type that in, and I'll look for people. You're always going to find somebody out there on the net who's had a similar problem, and where their operating system or their kernel was stopping at a certain area or during a certain procedure. Debugging mode lets you see that. You can then research it, look it up, and figure out how to repair the file system.